What's up, football fans? Welcome back to my channel where I talk about anything and everything football related. Today, we're going to recap some of the top commitments that happened over this past week in college football. Let's get started with a familiar story over in Eugene, Oregon. Tuesday evening, we saw four-star linebacker Kamar Mothudi announce his commitment to the Ducks over schools like Utah and Michigan State. Mothudi plays for Los Alamitos High School and is a top 20 prospect in California. He's one of the top 20 linebackers in this cycle and is currently listed at 6'3", 220 pounds. Kamar not only plays very physical, he also has grown a lot in coverage too. Last season, Mothudi played on both sides of the ball, recording 104 total tackles, 4 sacks, 11 tackles for a loss, and 2 interceptions, while also rushing for over 1,300 yards and 18 touchdowns. Just last week, we saw Oregon land another four-star linebacker out of California in Dylan Williams. This now gives Oregon 3 of the top 20 prospects in California according to 24/7 Sports Composite ranking. He becomes the 20th commitment for the Ducks' 8th overall recruiting class. On Wednesday, Alabama added one of the cycle's top interior offensive linemen with the commitment of Casey Poe. He chose the Crimson Tide over schools like Georgia, Clemson, and Texas Tech. Poe is currently the number 4 interior offensive lineman in the cycle and a top 20 recruit in Texas according to 24/7 Sports Composite ranking. He is also one of the top 120 recruits in the entire class. Casey said during his commitment that he wanted to go somewhere that will test him day in and day out and make sure he becomes the best player and person he can be. On3 has him ranked as high as the number 1 interior offensive lineman for this cycle. He's played both tackle and guard at Lindell High School, but projects best on the interior. On top of his football skills, he also won the 4A state title in shot put as a sophomore. Alabama has quickly jumped into the top 10 recruiting classes, with them being outside of the top 50 roughly a month ago. After recently landing 2 of the top 20 cornerbacks in the cycle in Xavier Brown and Jameer Grimsley, and now one of the top interior linemen in Casey Poe, the Crimson Tide's recruiting class is shaping up nicely. The Sooners landed one of the top defensive linemen in this cycle Thursday evening. 4-star defensive lineman Jayden Jackson announced he'll be committing to Oklahoma over schools like Texas, Miami, and Ohio State. Jayden Jackson currently plays for IMG Academy, but is originally from Brownsburg, Indiana. He lines up alongside one of the Sooners' top targets, David Stone, who's currently the 6th overall prospect according to 24/7 Sports Composite ranking. Jackson is a monster along the interior of the defense, consistently destroying the line of scrimmage. When you turn on his tape, you'll find him in the backfield often, showing off his initial get-off speed and strength. Many expected Jackson to either sign with Texas or Ohio State, but defensive line coach Todd Bates was able to lock him in with the Sooners. As I mentioned earlier, he's teammates with one of the Sooners' top targets, so landing Jackson is a great sign for Oklahoma fans. If the Sooners are able to land David Stone, I would expect many other dominoes to fall soon after. They're still in the hunt for guys like Williams Winnari, Dominic McKinley, and Eli Bowen, while also trending for guys like Taylor Tatum and Nigel Smith. Those are some really important names for the 2024 cycle, and with only 13 commitments thus far, would really turn this recruiting class up a few notches. 5-star wide receiver Joshisa Trader announced he'll be staying home and committed to Miami via Instagram Thursday night. While some sites do have him labeled as an athlete, JoJo is one of the top wide receivers in the country and will be making his money as a receiver at the next level. Trader is the 13th overall prospect in the entire 2024 cycle according to Rivals, and plays for Chaminade Madonna Prep in Miami, Florida. Last season, Trader recorded 47 catches for 743 yards and 7 touchdowns, while also logging snaps on the defensive side of the ball too. He plays alongside Jeremiah Smith, who's the number 1 wide receiver in this class and currently committed to Ohio State. Josiah becomes the Hurricanes' highest rated wide receiver commit since 2004. With that being said, it's no exaggeration, this might be one of the biggest commitments Miami has gotten in a long time. The Hurricanes have done well recently, bringing in 5-stars like Francis Mauigoa and Leonard Taylor, but it's been a while since Miami's been able to bring in a playmaker like this on offense. He chose to stay home with Miami over schools like Ohio State, Florida State, and Florida. He joins offensive playmakers like Chance Robinson and Kevin Riley to boost the Hurricanes class into the top 20 classes for this cycle. Miami would stay rolling, landing 4-star defensive lineman Artavius Jones less than 24 hours later. Jones is one of the top defensive linemen in this cycle and one of the top recruits in the state of Florida. Artavius goes to Blountstown High School a little west of Tallahassee. ESPN has him ranked as the number 7 defensive lineman in this class and a top 20 recruit in Florida. He picked the Hurricanes over UCF, who was the only other school to get an official visit thus far. Last season, he recorded 58 tackles, 14 tackles for a loss, 3.5 sacks, and even an interception. Jones is not only an elite defensive tackle, but he also gets snaps as a fullback and tight end for Blountstown High School. Coming in at 6'3", 280 pounds, I can't imagine it being fun trying to tackle that. His commitment gives Miami the 14th overall recruiting class in this cycle according to 24/7 Sports. The Razorbacks have been in a slight recruiting slump, missing out on key guys like Chris Johnson II, Jaquan McCroy, Kendall Jackson, and more. That definitely changed on Friday, however. Arkansas was able to keep one of the state's top talents in-house with 4-star running back Braylen Russell recommitting to the Razorbacks. That's right, recommitting, as he was actually committed to the Razorbacks back in late 2021 but reopened his commitment in October. It's definitely rare to see a recruit recommit to a school that he originally decommitted from, but the Razorbacks were able to beat out SEC foes like South Carolina, and Tennessee for Russell's talents. Braylen Russell is a 6'2", 230-pound running back out of Benton, Arkansas, and has been clocked running a 4.5 40-yard dash. Last season, he rushed for over 1,600 yards and 26 touchdowns while averaging nearly 7 yards a carry for Benton High School. He also caught 22 passes for 224 yards and a touchdown too. He's pretty much a consensus top 5 player in Arkansas and a top 20 running back in this cycle. Not long after Russell's commitment, the Razorbacks landed one of the top recruits in the state of Texas. 4-star cornerback Selman announced via Instagram that he'll be picking Arkansas over schools like Texas, TCU, and USC. Selman is a 6'3", 175-pound cornerback from Lake Belton High School near Waco, Texas, and is ranked as the 6th best cornerback in this cycle by 24/7 Sports. This is the Razorbacks' best commitment since defensive lineman Telvin Agum signed back in 2016. Bridges joins a Razorbacks top 20 recruiting class featuring other Texas natives like Jayden Allen, Akari Johnson, and Ashton Bethel Roman. This now also gives Arkansas 4 recruits in the top 100 according to 24/7 Sports composite ranking. The Florida State Seminoles continued their great streak of recruiting, landing 4-star athlete Micahi Danzy. The Seminoles didn't have to look very far for Danzy as he plays for Florida State University High in Tallahassee, Florida. He primarily plays running back and recorded over 1,800 yards and 17 touchdowns while averaging nearly 10 yards per carry for the Seminoles. Danzy picked FSU over schools like LSU and Auburn, who also offered him scholarships in track. Micahi has elite speed and is one of the fastest kids in Florida, which is saying something. He actually recently broke the Florida State record for the 400-meter run with a 46.02. He said after doing so, that was only the second time he'd ran the 400 that season. Florida State already has 4-star running back Cameron Davis in their class, but should pair nicely with Danzy. Danzy wouldn't be the only commitment out of Florida State University School on Saturday. 4-star safety Ashton Hampton announced he'll be committing to Clemson shortly after Danzy's commitment. Hampton is a 6'2", 190-pound safety, but played cornerback as well for Florida State University School. He racked up 48 tackles, 8 pass deflections, and an interception last season. This gives the Tigers 3 safeties committed to this class, but Hampton said after his commitment, Clemson will allow him to show off his versatility as a defensive back, so I wouldn't be surprised if he plays some cornerback for the Tigers too. A few days after landing Casey Poe, the Crimson Tide were back in the headlines, landing 4-star tight end Caleb Odom. Odom is the number 2 tight end in the cycle and On3's 28th overall recruit in their rankings. Coming in at 6'5", 220 pounds, Odom has a great frame for a receiving tight end and still has plenty of room to add weight to it. Last season, he recorded 64 receptions for 1,121 yards and 13 touchdowns for Carrollton High School over in Georgia. He plays alongside freshman phenom Julian Lewis, who Alabama is pursuing heavily for their 2026 recruiting class, and will likely be the number 1 recruit in that cycle. Odom also plays basketball for the Trojans and actually has basketball offers from LSU and Vanderbilt. Alabama was able to win Caleb's talents over schools like Miami, Texas A&M, Penn State, and Florida, who all got official visits throughout June. This now gives the Crimson Tide the number 5 overall recruiting class in the 2024 cycle, and tons of momentum heading into key battles for guys like Kobe Black, Daniel Hill, and more. The Aggies wide receiver room just landed a lot more speed. 4-star wide receiver and track star Ernest Campbell announced he'll be committing to the Aggies over schools like Nebraska and Boston College. Campbell is the 44th wide receiver in this cycle and a top 60 recruit in Texas according to Rivals.com. He plays for Refugio High School and is the 2A 100-meter and 200-meter state champion. His time of 10.22 is the 2A state record and the 6th fastest time all time in Texas high school history. He joins one of the best, if not the best, wide receiver group in the 2024 cycle. Guys like Cam Coleman, Draylen Miller, and Jalen Hornsby all recently committed to the Aggies. This now gives A&M 5 wide receivers in this class. One of the top recruits in North Carolina decided to stay home and commit to the Tar Heels Sunday afternoon. 4-star wideout Shipp announced his commitment to UNC over schools like Michigan and NC State. Shipp is a 4-star wide receiver at a Providence Day School in Charlotte, North Carolina. He plays alongside elite recruits like David Sanders Jr., Jayden Davis, and Channing Goodwin. Last season, Shipp recorded 62 catches for over 1,000 yards and 14 touchdowns and also rushed for a touchdown too. For a while, it seemed like he'd be joining teammates Jayden Davis and Channing Goodwin and commit to Michigan, but the Tar Heels were able to get his last official visit and sway the leaderboards. Jordan joins the Tar Heels' now 22nd ranked recruiting class and becomes their 4th highest rated recruit. And that'll do it for this week's recruiting recap. Leave a comment what teams you want me to cover more of. And if you're a football addict like I am, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more football related content. You can catch some of my other videos right here, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Until then, peace.